I never thought a single dance could ruin me like this. Not ruin in the way you'd expect, but ruin in the way that makes you realize you'll spend the rest of your life comparing every moment to one perfect night, one girl, one whisper. Her name was Elena. I met her at a charity gala I had no business attending. I was there because my boss needed someone to represent our small marketing firm, and everyone else had plans. I wore a borrowed suit that didn't fit right and spent the first hour trying to blend into the background, nursing cheap champagne and pretending I belonged. The venue was beautiful, old money beautiful. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, people who spoke in hushed tones about things I'd never understand. I felt like an imposter, and maybe I was. That's when I saw her. She stood alone near the balcony doors, half hidden behind a pillar. While everyone else glittered and posed, she seemed to be trying to disappear. She wore a deep blue dress that caught the light, her dark hair pulled back elegantly. But what struck me most was how she held herself, like she was bracing for something, like she expected to be hurt. I didn't approach her, not then. I just watched, the way you watch something fragile and beautiful that you know you shouldn't touch. An older woman next to me noticed my staring. She leaned in, smelling of expensive perfume. "That's Elena Harrington," she whispered. "Marcus Harrington's daughter, the CEO." I knew the name. Everyone in the city knew Marcus Harrington. His tech company had reshaped half the skyline. "She rarely comes to these things," the woman continued, and there was something in her voice I couldn't place. Pity, maybe, or curiosity. Poor thing. I wanted to ask why, but the woman had already moved away, pulled into another conversation. Throughout the evening, I found myself watching Elena. She moved through the crowd like a ghost, speaking when spoken to, smiling politely, but never quite connecting. People greeted her with careful kindness, the kind that feels rehearsed, respectful, distant. It was during dinner that I finally understood why. She turned her head, laughing softly at something someone said, and the candlelight caught the left side of her face. Scars. Not small ones. They ran from her temple down to her jaw, raised and uneven, like someone had tried to erase part of her and failed. My stomach tightened, not from disgust, from recognition. I knew what it was like to be seen as less than whole. After dinner, there was dancing, the kind of formal, stiff dancing that rich people do at events like this. I stood against the wall, watching couples glide across the floor with practiced ease. Elena stood alone again, near the same pillar. Her father, Marcus Harrington, was across the room, deep in conversation with people who looked important. He hadn't glanced her way all night. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was the champagne. Maybe it was the way she looked so completely alone in a room full of people. Maybe I just wanted to prove to myself that I could be brave for once in my pathetic life. I walked over to her. "Hi," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. She turned, surprised. Up close, her eyes were stunning. Deep brown, intelligent, guarded. "Hi," she replied, cautious. "I'm not good at this, at galas, at small talk, at any of this, really." A small smile touched her lips. "Neither am I." "Then we have something in common. Would you like to dance?" The question hung between us. For a moment, I thought she'd say no. I could see the hesitation in her eyes, the way she glanced towards her father, towards the other guests. "Yes," she said quietly. "I would." I led her to the dance floor, my heart hammering. I wasn't a great dancer, but I knew the basics. I placed one hand on her waist, took her hand in mine, and we began to move. She was tense at first, her body rigid with uncertainty. But slowly, as we swayed to the music, she relaxed, just a little. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For asking." I looked at her, really looked at her, and understood. "When's the last time someone asked you to dance?" She didn't answer. She didn't need to. We danced in silence for a while. Around us, I could feel eyes watching, curious, judgmental.
I ignored them. "What's your name?" she asked. "David." "I'm Elena." "I know," I said, then immediately regretted it. "I mean, someone told me earlier." She smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. "It's okay. I'm used to people knowing who I am before I know them. That must be exhausting. You have no idea." The music slowed even more, and we were barely moving now, just swaying in place. Other couples had left the floor. It was mostly just us. "Can I ask you about the scars?" I said quietly. She stiffened, and I immediately regretted it. "I'm sorry, that was a car accident," she said, cutting me off. "My mother was driving. She didn't make it." My chest tightened. "I'm so sorry." "Everyone is," she said, but there was no bitterness in her voice, just exhaustion. "That's the worst part, the constant apologies, the constant reminders that I look different now, that I'm damaged." "You're not damaged," I said. "You don't know me." "I know enough." She pulled back slightly, searching my face. "Why are you being kind to me?"
"Because you deserve kindness," I said simply. Something shifted in her expression. Vulnerability, raw and aching. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "My father is going to come over here in a few minutes. He's been watching us, and when he does, he's going to ask you to leave me alone." "Why?" "Because he thinks I'm fragile, because he thinks anyone who shows interest in me is either pitying me or using me, because he doesn't trust anyone." "What do you think?" "I think you're the first person in years who's looked at me like I'm just a person." The song ended. Around us, polite applause, but we didn't move apart. "Elena?" a deep voice said. I turned to see Marcus Harrington standing a few feet away. He was tall, imposing, with graying hair and the kind of presence that demanded attention. "Elena?" Elena said, her voice carefully neutral. His eyes moved to me, assessing, cold. "I don't believe we've met." "David Chen," I said, extending my hand. "I'm here representing—" "I know who you represent," he said, not taking my hand. "Elena, your grandmother is asking for you." It was a dismissal, clear and absolute. Elena's hand tightened on mine for just a second, then released. "Of course," she said. She looked at me one last time, and in her eyes I saw an apology. Then she turned and walked away, her father following close behind. I stood alone on the dance floor, feeling like I'd just lost something I never really had. I didn't see her for the rest of the evening. I left early, drove home in my borrowed suit, and tried to convince myself that it didn't matter, that it was just a dance, just a moment. But I couldn't stop thinking about her. 3 days later, I received an email at work. The subject line read, "Thank you." The email was from Elena. Somehow she'd found my contact information. "David, I'm not sure if you'll remember me, but I wanted to thank you for the dance. It meant more than you know. I don't often feel like myself around people, but with you, I did, even if just for a few songs. I hope you're well. Elena." I stared at that email for 20 minutes before replying. We began corresponding. Just emails at first. Safe, distant. She told me about the books she was reading, the small garden she was trying to grow on her balcony, the classical music she listened to when she couldn't sleep. I told her about my days at work, the coffee shop I wrote in on weekends, the half-finished novel buried in my desk drawer. After 2 weeks, she asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. I said yes before I could overthink it. We met at a quiet cafe in a neighborhood neither of us frequented. She wore sunglasses and a scarf, trying to be inconspicuous. When she sat down across from me, she pulled them off, and I saw the relief in her face, like she'd been holding her breath. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she admitted. "Why wouldn't I?" "Because most people don't come back after the first time." We talked for 3 hours, about everything, about nothing. She laughed at my terrible jokes. I listened to her talk about her mother, the accident, the years of surgeries and therapy, and learning to exist in a world that valued beauty above everything else. "Do you ever get angry?" I asked. "All the time," she said. "But anger doesn't change anything. It just makes you bitter." "I'd be bitter." "You don't know that. You don't know who you'd be if something like this happened to you." She was right. I didn't. We met again the following week, and then the week after that. Each time it got easier. Each time I fell a little harder. I knew it was complicated. I knew her father would never approve. I knew I was just a guy with a mediocre job and mediocre prospects. But when I was with her, none of that seemed to matter. One evening, we walked through a park near her apartment. It was late fall, the air crisp, leaves crunching under our feet. She told me she was thinking about going back to school to finish her degree. "I think I need to do something for myself," she said. "Not for my father, not to prove anything to anyone, just for me." "I think that's brave," I said. "You keep saying that I'm brave, but I don't feel brave." "Maybe bravery isn't feeling fearless. Maybe it's being terrified and doing it anyway." She stopped walking and turned to me. We were standing under a street lamp, the light casting shadows across her face. She looked beautiful, not in spite of her scars, but including them, every part of her. "Can I tell you something?" "Anything." "I think I'm falling for you." My heart stopped. "Elena," she continued quickly, "I know it's complicated. I know my father will make it impossible. I know you probably have a normal life you want to get back to, but I needed you to know this, because I've spent 5 years hiding from everything, and I don't want to hide from this." I reached for her hand. "I'm falling for you, too." She smiled, and it was the most genuine smile I'd ever seen from her. We started seeing each other more seriously after that, quietly. We both knew we couldn't make it public. Not yet. Her father had too much control over her life, and I didn't want to make things harder for her. But word got out anyway. It always does in circles like that. 2 months after we met, Elena's father found out. She called me late at night, her voice shaking. "He knows," she said. "He's furious." "What did he say?" "He said you're using me, that you see me as some kind of project, that once you get what you want, you'll leave me." "That's not true." "I know, but he doesn't believe that. He's threatening to cut me off, to stop paying for my therapy, my apartment, everything. He says if I keep seeing you, I'm on my own." "Then we'll figure it out. You don't need him." "Yes, I do," she said, and her voice broke. "I'm not strong enough to do this alone. I'm not like you. I can't just survive on my own." "You're stronger than you think." "No," she whispered. "I'm not." The next week was agony. She wouldn't see me. She barely responded to my messages. I could feel her slipping away, and there was nothing I could do about it. Finally, she agreed to meet me, one last time. We met at the same park where she'd told me she was falling for me. It felt like a cruel echo. She looked exhausted, like she hadn't slept in days. "I can't do this," she said before I could speak. "I thought I could, but I can't." "Elena." "He's my father, David. He's all I have left. And as much as I hate the way he I said
controls me,
desperately.
I
"You're
don't know how to
Elena.
exist
You're the
without that
person who
control.
loves literature
I don't know
and
who I
grows
am
terrible
outside of
tomatoes
being
and
his
listens to
daughter."
Chopin at 3 in the morning. You're not just his daughter." "That's who I want to be," she said, tears streaming down her face. "But I'm too scared to be that person. I'm sorry." I wanted to fight. I wanted to tell her she was wrong, that she was making a mistake, that we could make this work. But I could see the truth in her eyes. She'd already made her decision. "Will I see you again?" I asked. She shook her head. "It's better if we don't." We stood there in silence, the weight of goodbye crushing both of us. Then she stepped forward and wrapped her arms around me. I held her tight, memorizing the feeling, knowing it was the last time. She pulled back, looked up at me, and whispered the words that would haunt me forever. "I won't forget you." Then she turned and walked away. I stood there long after she disappeared, watching the empty path, feeling like I'd just lost a part of myself I'd never get back. Months have passed now. I haven't heard from her. I don't expect to. I tried to move on. I dated other people. I threw myself to work. I even started writing again, pouring all my grief and longing into words on a page. But nothing fills the space she left behind. Sometimes I wonder if she thinks about me, if she regrets her choice, if she's happy with the life her father chose for her. I hope she is. I hope she found peace, even if it's not with me. But I also know the truth. She won't forget me, just like I'll never forget her. Some people come into your life and change everything. They show you who you could be, who you want to be, and even when they leave a mark, a scar of their own. Elena left her mark on me, and I'll carry it forever. I still think about that dance sometimes, the way she felt in my arms, the way she looked at me like I was someone worth knowing, the way she whispered those final words. I won't forget you. I won't forget her either. I never could.